What if everything you've been told about osteoporosis is only half the story? Imagine doing exactly what your doctor recommended. Taking calcium every single day. Never missing a dose. Yet months, or even years later, your bones are actually getting weaker. Sounds impossible, right? But here's the shocking part. For some people, the problem isn't that they aren't taking enough calcium. It's that their body doesn't know what to do with it. Instead of strengthening bones, that calcium may end up in places where it doesn't belong, like your arteries or even your kidneys. Meanwhile, your bones continue losing strength. So why does this happen? And why are millions of people focusing on the wrong nutrient? Today, we're going to uncover a hidden piece of the osteoporosis puzzle that many people never hear about. By the end of this video, you'll understand why bone health is far more complicated than simply taking a calcium supplement, and what science says actually matters for keeping bones strong. Let's begin. Section 1: The biggest myth about osteoporosis. When most people hear the word osteoporosis, they immediately think, I must need more calcium. It's an idea that's been repeated for decades. Weak bones? Take calcium. Problem solved. But here's the question very few people ask. If osteoporosis were simply caused by a calcium deficiency, why do many people with osteoporosis have normal blood calcium levels? And why do some people who faithfully take calcium supplements still experience bone loss? Clearly, something else is going on. The truth is that your bones aren't just giant blocks of calcium. They're living, constantly changing tissues. Every single day, your body breaks down tiny amounts of old bone and replaces it with new bone. This process happens your entire life. Even while you're sleeping. Think of your skeleton like a house that's constantly under renovation. Old bricks are removed. New bricks are added. If this process stays balanced, your bones remain healthy. But when breakdown starts happening faster than rebuilding, that's when bones become weaker. And here's the important part. That rebuilding process depends on much more than calcium alone. Section 2: Your bones are a mineral bank. Here's a simple way to think about it. Imagine your bones are a bank. But instead of storing money, they store minerals. Yes, calcium is one of those minerals. But it isn't the only one. Your bones also store large amounts of phosphorus and magnesium, along with protein and other components that give bone both strength and flexibility. In other words, bone isn't just a pile of calcium. It's an incredibly complex structure. Now imagine your body suddenly needs extra calcium to keep your heart beating, your muscles contracting, or your nerves functioning. Where does it get it? From your bones. It's like making a withdrawal from your savings account. Normally, those withdrawals are temporary because the body later deposits minerals back into bone. But if withdrawals happen faster than deposits, your bone bank account slowly becomes empty. That's essentially what osteoporosis looks like. And here's where the story becomes much more interesting. Because the body has a manager deciding when minerals go in and when they come out. Section 3: The hidden mineral most people ignore. If calcium is the worker, magnesium is the manager. Yet most conversations about osteoporosis barely mention it. Why? Because calcium gets all the attention. But magnesium quietly participates in hundreds of processes throughout the body, including many involved in bone health. Researchers know that magnesium is important for normal bone structure and helps support many of the enzymes involved in maintaining healthy bones. It also plays a role in how the body handles vitamin D. Without enough magnesium, vitamin D may not be activated as efficiently. And if vitamin D isn't working properly, your body may struggle to maintain normal calcium balance. That's where things can become more complicated. Think of magnesium like the traffic controller at a busy airport. Calcium is the airplane. Without the controller, planes become disorganized. With the controller, everything moves where it's supposed to. It's a simple analogy, but it helps explain why focusing on only one nutrient can miss the bigger picture. Section 4: Why calcium alone isn't enough. Now let's answer the biggest question. If calcium is important, why doesn't taking more automatically fix osteoporosis? Because your body isn't asking one simple question. How much calcium do I have? Instead, it's asking something much more complicated. Can I properly absorb it? Can I regulate it? Can I build healthy bone with it? If any part of that system isn't functioning well, simply adding more calcium may not solve the underlying problem. That's why many experts now emphasize that overall nutrition, adequate vitamin D, regular physical activity, sufficient protein, and other minerals, including magnesium, all contribute to healthy bones. In other words, bone health is a team effort, not a one-player game. Section 5: The hormone that can quietly weaken bones. Now let's introduce one of the most overlooked players in this entire story. A tiny hormone called parathyroid hormone, often abbreviated as PTH. Most people have never heard of it. But it plays a major role in regulating calcium levels. Here's how it works. Your body works incredibly hard to keep the amount of calcium in your blood within a very narrow range. If blood calcium drops too low, the body responds. One of the ways it does this is by increasing parathyroid hormone. PTH signals the body to release calcium stored in bones so that critical organs, like your heart, muscles, and nervous system, continue functioning normally. This response is essential for survival. The problem arises when that signal remains elevated for a long time. Over time, excessive bone breakdown can contribute to weaker bones. One common reason PTH increases is vitamin D deficiency, because vitamin D helps the body absorb calcium from food. If calcium absorption falls, the body may rely more heavily on bone stores. And that's why maintaining healthy vitamin D levels is considered an important part of bone health. But here's something most people never realize. Vitamin D itself doesn't work in isolation either. And that brings us back to magnesium. Transition to part 2. So now we know something surprising. Calcium isn't the whole story. Magnesium may influence how vitamin D functions. Vitamin D affects calcium balance. And a tiny hormone can determine whether calcium stays in your bones, or is pulled out of them. But this is only the beginning. Because in the next part, we'll uncover why some common medications may quietly increase the risk of bone loss, why bone density isn't the same as bone strength, and the evidence behind vitamin K2, protein, exercise, and other factors that may help support healthier bones. Section 6: Bone density doesn't always tell the whole story. Have you ever wondered why two people can have similar bone density scores, yet one breaks a hip after a minor fall, while the other doesn't? That question has puzzled scientists for years. Because here's something many people don't realize. Bone density and bone strength are not exactly the same thing. Think about it this way. Imagine two wooden chairs. Both weigh exactly the same. But one is made from high-quality hardwood, while the other is made from old, cracked wood that's beginning to rot. On paper, they might appear similar. But the moment someone sits down, one stays solid. The other snaps. Bones work in a similar way. A healthy bone isn't just packed with minerals. It also has a strong internal structure made of proteins, especially collagen, that gives it flexibility and helps absorb the force of everyday movements. Without that framework, even a dense bone may not be as resilient as it should be. That's why modern bone health isn't just about adding more minerals. It's about supporting the entire system that builds and maintains healthy bone. And that's where another common misunderstanding begins. Section 7, Can calcium end up in the wrong places? Now let's talk about something that sounds almost unbelievable. Can calcium end up in places where we don't want it? The answer is yes, but it's more complicated than many headlines make it seem. Calcium is essential for life. Your heart needs it. Your muscles need it. Your nerves depend on it. But your body also has sophisticated systems that regulate where calcium belongs. Under certain conditions, calcium deposits can develop in soft tissues, such as blood vessels or the kidneys. This doesn't happen simply because someone takes calcium supplements. It depends on many factors, including overall health, kidney function, diet, medications, and individual medical conditions. This is one reason why it's important not to assume that more is always better. Instead, the goal is to meet your calcium needs, preferably from food when possible, and use supplements only when they're actually needed and recommended. In other words, bone health is about balance, not excess. Section 8, The medications that can affect your bones. Now here's something many people never connect. Sometimes, the very medications that improve one health problem can unintentionally affect bone health. One well-known example is long-term corticosteroid medications, such as prednisone. These medications are incredibly effective for treating conditions like severe asthma, autoimmune diseases, and certain inflammatory disorders. For many people, they're life-saving. But doctors have long recognized that prolonged use can increase the risk of osteoporosis. Why? Because corticosteroids can interfere with the normal process of building new bone while increasing bone breakdown. That's why people taking these medications for extended periods are often monitored carefully for bone health. Another group of medications that has been studied is proton pump inhibitors, often called PPIs. These are medicines commonly used to treat acid reflux and stomach ulcers. Research suggests that long-term use may be associated with a modest increase in fracture risk in some people, although the exact reasons are still being investigated. This doesn't mean anyone should stop taking prescribed medication. Far from it. If you're taking any long-term medication, the right approach is to discuss bone health with your healthcare provider, not discontinue treatment on your own. Sometimes the benefits of a medication greatly outweigh its risks, but knowing those risks allows you and your doctor to manage them. Section 9, The surprising role of stress. Now let's talk about something most people don't associate with their skeleton. Stress. When you think about stress, you probably think about anxiety, poor sleep, or feeling exhausted. But chronic stress may also affect your bones. Here's why. Long-term stress can raise levels of the hormone cortisol. In normal amounts, cortisol is essential. It helps regulate blood sugar, inflammation, and your body's response to challenges. But when cortisol remains elevated for long periods, it can interfere with normal bone remodeling. At the same time, chronic stress often leads to other habits that aren't bone-friendly. People may sleep less, exercise less, eat fewer nutritious meals, spend less time outdoors. Each of those changes can indirectly affect bone health over time. That's why protecting your bones isn't only about nutrition. It's also about lifestyle. Section 10, Why your diet matters more than you think. Here's a question. If bones are partly made from minerals, what else are they made of? The answer might surprise you. Protein. Lots of it. Many people think of protein only in terms of muscles. But protein is also a critical building block for bone tissue. Without enough protein, your body has a harder time maintaining healthy bone structure. That's one reason why experts generally recommend adequate protein intake as part of an overall strategy for bone health. The best sources vary depending on your dietary preferences. Fish, eggs, dairy, lean meats, legumes, soy foods. All can contribute to meeting your daily protein needs. The key is consistency. Because your skeleton is constantly remodeling itself. Every day. Every week. Every year. Section 11, the exercise your bones actually want. Now here's the good news. Unlike many organs in your body, bones respond remarkably well to challenge. In fact, bones actually become stronger when they're asked to do work. Think about astronauts. When they spend months in space without gravity, their bones begin losing density. Not because they stopped eating calcium, but because their skeleton isn't experiencing normal weight-bearing forces. Your body is incredibly efficient. If it doesn't think strong bones are necessary, it won't invest as much energy maintaining them. That's why weight-bearing activities are so important. Walking, climbing stairs, resistance training, strength exercises. These activities send your skeleton a simple message. We still need strong bones. Of course, if you already have osteoporosis, it's important to choose exercises that are safe for your condition and to seek guidance before starting a new program. The goal isn't lifting the heaviest weights possible. It's giving your bones regular, appropriate stimulation. Section 12, the big picture. At this point, you can probably see why osteoporosis is much more complicated than simply asking, should I take calcium? Instead, the real questions become, are you getting enough vitamin D? Are you meeting your calcium needs appropriately? Are you eating enough protein? Are you physically active? Are there medications or medical conditions affecting your bones? Is your overall diet supporting bone health? When all of these pieces come together, you're supporting the system that keeps bones healthy, not just one nutrient. But there's still one major question left unanswered. If calcium isn't the whole story, what should an evidence-based bone health plan actually look like? Should you take supplements? If so, which ones? And what does the research really say about vitamin D, vitamin K, magnesium, calcium, and lifestyle? That's exactly what we'll break down in the final part. Because the answer is probably very different from what you've heard before. Section 13, so, what should you actually do? Now we've arrived at the most important question. If osteoporosis isn't simply a calcium deficiency, then what should you actually do to help protect your bones? The answer isn't a single supplement. It isn't a miracle food. And it definitely isn't a quick fix. Strong bones are built by supporting the entire system that creates and maintains bone over time. Let's break that system down. Section 14, Step 1, don't ignore calcium. But don't rely on it alone. After everything we've discussed, you might think I'm saying calcium isn't important. That's not true. Calcium is absolutely essential. Without enough calcium, your body can't properly support many vital functions, including healthy bones. The mistake is believing calcium alone can solve osteoporosis. Think of it like trying to build a house. Calcium is the bricks. But bricks alone don't create a home. You also need workers, blueprints, cement, steel, and proper construction. Your skeleton works the same way. If your healthcare provider says you need more calcium, the first choice is often getting it through calcium-rich foods such as dairy products, fortified plant-based alternatives, leafy greens, or other calcium-containing foods that fit your diet. If supplements are recommended, use the type and amount advised by your healthcare professional rather than assuming more is better. Because with nutrients, balance usually beats excess. Section 15, Step 2, Vitamin D matters. Now let's talk about vitamin D. Vitamin D plays a critical role in helping your body absorb calcium from your diet. Without adequate vitamin D, even a calcium-rich diet may not be enough. Low vitamin D levels are also associated with an increase in parathyroid hormone, which can increase bone breakdown over time. That's why many healthcare providers check vitamin D levels in people at risk for osteoporosis. If you're deficient, correcting that deficiency becomes an important part of your treatment plan. But here's an important point. The right dose of vitamin D varies from person to person. Factors such as age, body weight, sun exposure, medical conditions, and blood test results all matter. Very high doses, such as 20,000 IU daily, may be appropriate only in specific situations under medical supervision, because excessive vitamin D can also cause harm. That's why it's safest to base supplementation on professional guidance and, when appropriate, blood testing. Section 16, Step 3, Don't overlook magnesium. Now let's come back to the nutrient that started this entire conversation. Magnesium. Magnesium contributes to hundreds of reactions throughout the body and supports normal muscle, nerve, and bone function. It also plays a role in vitamin D metabolism. Many people don't consume enough magnesium through their diets. Foods naturally rich in magnesium include dark leafy greens, pumpkin seeds, almonds, cashews, beans, whole grains, and yes, even dark chocolate contains some magnesium. For people who don't get enough through food, a healthcare professional may recommend a magnesium supplement. But remember, more isn't always better. High doses of magnesium supplements can cause diarrhea, interact with certain medications, and may not be safe for people with kidney disease. So supplementation should match your individual needs. Section 17, What about vitamin K2? Now let's address another supplement that has received a lot of attention. Vitamin K2. Vitamin K helps activate proteins involved in bone metabolism. Some studies, particularly from Japan, have suggested that certain forms of vitamin K may benefit bone health in specific populations. However, the overall evidence is still mixed, and recommendations vary between countries and medical guidelines. That doesn't mean vitamin K isn't important. It means researchers are still learning exactly who benefits most and at what dose. One very important warning. If you take blood-thinning medications such as warfarin, never start vitamin K supplements without speaking with your doctor first, because they can interfere with your medication. Section 18, The most powerful medicine isn't in a bottle. Here's something many people underestimate. Your bones respond to your lifestyle every single day. Every walk you take. Every healthy meal you eat. Every good night's sleep. Every strength training session sends signals to your skeleton. Research consistently shows that weight-bearing exercise and resistance training help maintain bone strength and reduce the risk of falls when done safely. Even simple activities like brisk walking, climbing stairs, or carrying groceries can make a difference. The key is consistency, not perfection. Section 19, Don't forget protein. Here's another piece people often miss. Bone isn't just mineral. It's also built on a protein framework, primarily collagen. Without adequate protein, your body has a harder time maintaining healthy bone. Whether your protein comes from fish, eggs, dairy, lean meat, soy, beans, or lentils. The goal is making sure you're getting enough to support both your muscles and your skeleton. Because stronger muscles also mean better balance. And fewer falls. Section 20, If you already have osteoporosis. If you've already been diagnosed with osteoporosis, please remember this. Don't stop prescribed medication simply because you've learned about nutrition. Medications, nutrition, exercise, and lifestyle aren't competitors. They can work together. Some medications reduce fracture risk and are appropriate for many people. The right treatment depends on your bone density, fracture history, age, overall health, and personal risk factors. That's a conversation to have with your healthcare provider. The goal isn't choosing supplements instead of medical care. It's combining healthy habits with evidence-based treatment when needed. Final takeaway. So, what's the biggest lesson from today's video? Osteoporosis is far more complex than simply asking, "Am I getting enough calcium?" Healthy bones depend on many factors working together. Heavy checkmark: getting enough calcium from your diet or supplements if recommended. Heavy checkmark: maintaining healthy vitamin D levels. Heavy checkmark: eating a balanced diet that includes magnesium-rich foods. Heavy checkmark: getting enough protein. Heavy checkmark: staying physically active with weight-bearing and resistance exercises. Heavy checkmark: sleeping well and managing chronic stress. Heavy checkmark: reviewing medications and risk factors with your healthcare provider. When you focus on the entire system instead of chasing one magic nutrient, you're giving your bones the best chance to stay strong. OUTRO. If you learned something new today, take just a second and hit the like button. Not for me, but because it helps YouTube share evidence-based health information with more people who may need it. And if you're interested in simple, science-backed strategies to improve your health naturally, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Every week, we break down complex medical topics into easy-to-understand advice you can actually use. Now here's a question for you. Have you ever had a bone density test, or has a doctor ever told you that you have osteopenia or osteoporosis? Let us know in the comments below. I read as many comments as I can, and your experience may help someone else. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.